You are watching the Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network. We have a special edition live for you today. The big news from the Toronto Maple Leafs, John Tavares signing a 4-year contract extension at a very affordable $4.38 million per season. That was amongst the big talk for the Leafs moving forward. So that is done. EJ Hradek alongside Pierre McGuire. And Pierre, let me just get you. What's your reaction to the deal?
I'm so excited for Leaf fans. I'm thrilled to death for the Tavares family. It's the appropriate contract for a player at this age, almost a point-a-game player. I don't know if he'll play in the 2-hole next year, EJ, or the 3-hole next year for Toronto. But the truth of the matter is Toronto's a better team with John Tavares than without John Tavares. It's a very digestible number. And I really want to give credit to John Tavares. He took less than market value, and you know this better than anybody.
Yep.
If he goes to market, EJ, that number is a lot higher on the AAV.
Yeah, no question. I mean, we saw what Brock Nelson got, similar situation, and he got a different type of deal. I think it was 3 times 7.5. Yep. John Tavares gets the extra year. Do you think, I mean, for me, that looks like, that was the thing that pushed it over the edge, right? Like, I'll take less, give me the extra year. I want to be a Leaf for life. It works for everybody.
You know what's really cool about what you just said? I think about when they made the announcement that Austin Matthews was going to be the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Mm-hmm. John Tavares could have pouted and moped and cried and complained and leaked a lot of stuff. He didn't. He handled like he wanted to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And I think this contract speaks to that. He's a man that's honorable. He speaks to his word, and his word is, I want to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. Remember that picture of him wearing his Toronto Maple Leaf pajamas? Yep. I mean, this guy's a Leaf. And I think Leaf fans need to be excited about that. I think Leaf players are excited about that. I just admire John a lot. I've known John since he's been 14 years of age. He's had an amazing career, total respect, and I'm really happy. This is a good day in Leaf land, not a bad day. This is a really good day.
Yeah, I mean, really, Pierre, when you think about it, I mean, it's just all a fait accompli, really, that Mitch Marner is going to be leaving, right? So to have lost Marner and then lose Tavares on top of that, that would have been a whole lot of offense to lose. Tavares takes the deal that he takes. I mean, let's face it, he got $77 million on his last deal. He made money before that with the Islanders. It's really about happiness, lifestyle, and him wanting to fulfill, as we've talked about here. He wants to be a Leaf for life. That's who he is. You said he's an honorable guy. Some guys, they say one thing and do another. He has said one thing and he has acted on it. And, for those who say, well, he left some money on the table, I would suggest that he will do very well in Toronto in the future with endorsements and maybe moving into some type of role within their organization. I think that, he is going to be set up for life as a Toronto resident and certainly somebody that is part of that Leafs organization well beyond when his playing career ends.
Can you imagine, EJ, if the Toronto Maple Leafs do win the Stanley Cup with John Tavares part of it as a player? He doesn't need to worry about anything the rest of his life. And
no,
those players will ever have to worry about anything the rest of their lives. The biggest thing that you touched on before that's really important to this whole thing, EJ, you think about Mitchell Marner and his 105 points. You think about John Tavares and his over 70 points. You're talking about almost 180 points in lost offense if you lose Tavares. I don't care who they bring in. They're not recouping that this year. And in their division right now, the Atlantic, Detroit's better. Buffalo thinks they're better. Montreal's definitely better, especially with Noah Dobson going there. Ottawa is better. Let's see what the Bruins do. Florida's not going anywhere. Yeah. And Tampa's going to be tough to handle. So Toronto had to do something to stay relevant in their division. And so far, they've taken the right step, in my opinion.
Yeah, no question. Now, with Tavares coming in at that number, right? I mean, let's face it, last couple of years, he's an $11 million cap hit. Now he's a $4.38 million cap hit. That's pretty good savings right there. The cap is going up. What do you expect the Leafs to try to do now? They have a little more room. They have actually maybe a lot more room to play with in terms of free agents. They've talked about, the Sam Bennett's. I kind of think he's staying in Florida, but the Brad Marchands, there's other pieces out there. There's trade possibilities. What do you see Brad Treliving maybe doing with that extra money?
The first thing he's got to do is get Matthew Nyes signed, and I believe he'll do that. So let's just say Matthew Nyes comes in at 5 times 5. Or 5 times 6, let's just say, add the extra year. then you're still well within your budget. You still got tons of cap room left. So, EJ, I think that's a positive for Toronto. I do think they'll go big game hunting as big as they can. Not so much with trades, but in terms of, because they don't have a lot of ammunition to make trades. I don't, after trading Fraser Minton this year to Boston, I don't see them trading Easton Cowan. They need to keep him. He's probably the number one A-level prospect in their organization. So you got to hope that Easton Cowan, coming off a Memorial Cup with the London Knights, comes into Toronto and really pushes for a job. But I think they're going to need a second center. They're going to need scoring from the wings. And we'll see if any of their American League guys can mature to the point where they can find a roster spot in the NHL.
And, one other thing, too, Pierre, about like the possible trades, right? The cap is going up. The Leafs might be able to take on someone's problem that could be a helpful piece for them, like someone that's looking to get out of a contract for some reason. And you oftentimes don't necessarily have to give up a lot to add that player. So just having that room gives everybody a lot more flexibility, right?
It's such a good point. And I'll give you an example to your point. A lot of talk coming out of Edmonton about Victor Arvidsson. I'm not saying Victor Arvidsson's the answer, but it's DJ's point. The truth is that Victor Arvidsson can still play offensively. I don't know how great he is defensively, but offensively he can still produce. He's just one example. I think there are numerous examples around the league. Let's see what Anaheim does. I think Anaheim's going to be a really aggressive team. They may need to move one of their older wingers if they can to make room for certain things. They may have to move one of their center icemen because they're so loaded after getting Ryan Poehling in the Trevor Zegras trade. If you look at it, you go Ryan Strome, you go Leo Carlsson, you go Mason McTavish, you go Ryan Poehling. There might be room for somebody to be moved. So there's going to be the ability to make moves, I think, and you're spot on. Toronto's got enough room to be able to do that.
All right, let's talk about the other news of the day with the Montreal Canadiens and the New York Islanders making a big deal. I mean, Noah Dobson, there was a lot of speculation. Matthew Darche comes in. He's a first-year general manager there with the Islanders. Sometimes I'm sure you've seen it over your career. I've seen it throughout my career, is guys want to try to make a splash if they can and put their prints on it a little bit. He's walked into a situation where he has the first overall pick. There's a lot of talk about, you take Matthew Schaefer maybe first, and then you move up and you try to grab James Higgins, who's a Long Island kid who loved the Islanders. I mean, these are all things in the works. They trade Dobson to Montreal. They get the 16th and 17th pick in the draft. I got to think he's working to try to use those picks to maybe move up further. What do you make of it?
100% agree. I couldn't say it any better than what you just said, EJ. The other thing, too, is they got Emil Heineman. Emil Heineman was originally drafted by Florida. He goes up to Calgary. Then he goes from Calgary in the Sean Monahan trade to Montreal. So Emil Heineman's a very useful player, by the way. He's not a guy that's to throw in. He can really play in the NHL. So they've added him as well. So to me, 16 and 17 in this draft, and I'm sure you're hearing it out there in LA, this is not the deepest of athletic drafts. It's a deep character draft. It's not the deepest of athletic drafts. So at 16, 17, I think if you package those properly, you can move up. I do think there'll be people willing to move backwards to get the extra pick. So we'll see how that works out. But the thing that's interesting to me about the Islanders, I know for a fact ownership is really excited about Matthew Darche and the way he's presented himself in the community and the way they're being media friendly and fan friendly. The fact they're going to have 10,000 people tonight at a draft party on Long Island, that is unbelievable. Stuff, and he's a friend of you and I, Lou Lamoriello. Stuff that wouldn't have happened when our good friend Lou Lamoriello was running the Islanders. I can say that, and Coach, and I call him Coach all the time. Coach, don't get mad at me. But that wouldn't have happened if he was running the team. So I think they're really thrilled on Long Island. It's a positive thing, EJ, and I'm really excited for their fans, for their ownership group, and I think for Patrick Roy, he's got to be really excited going forward with Matthew Darche.
Give me your thoughts on Matthew Schaefer, because I don't know exactly what they're going to do. Maybe they turn to Misa, but it seems like the winds are blowing to Matthew Schaefer here as a defenseman. The Islanders, when I look back at defensemen going 1 overall, Pierre, the last defenseman that was first overall in the draft that won the Norris Trophy was Dennis Potvin, and that was back in 1973. So it's a long time ago. Picking a defenseman first, there's been a lot of great ones, but that to me, you think about it a little bit. Give me your thoughts on Matthew Schaefer, who, watching the tape, boy, he's impressive.
I've watched him a lot. I know he only played 17 games this year, but I was watching him long before this year. He had 24 points, by the way, in 17 games this year playing for the Erie Otters. Canada's opportunity at the World Junior this year in Ottawa got crushed because of the injury to Matthew Schaefer. He broke his collarbone. He's a tremendous athlete. He's an amazing leader. He's got fantastic range. He can run a power play. He's a great first passer coming out of his own zone. He can be physical. There's so much to like about Matthew Schaefer. But the number one thing, EJ, we talked about honorable people like John Tavares. Yeah. Matthew Schaefer is all about honor and work habits. He's a phenomenal person. He will be an #1 player for the Islanders. If they don't take him, I will fall off of this chair that I'm sitting in right now. And I'm a big Michael Misa fan, and I think the world of Anton Frondel. I do. Like, I'm just telling you, there's a lot of good players at the top of this draft, but not one player is better than Matthew Schaefer. Not one of them.
Let me ask you about Misa, because there's talk here that San Jose may take Frondel at 2, which would leave Misa 3 to Chicago. I mean, people always worry about, guys dropping. And there's I don't think if he drops to 3, it's no reflection on him. It's just a reflection on Schaefer and the San Jose Sharks' desire maybe to like Frondel. Give me your thoughts on Misa, who was an exceptional player in the CHL. By that, I mean he was able to play at 15 years of age. He's done nothing but succeed through his junior career. He had an unbelievable season this year, because I think he's an intriguing guy too, and it'll be fascinating to see his career unfold.
So well said. So here's the one thing I'm very comfortable telling you about Michael Misa. In 2006, 2007, Patrick Kane was playing for the London Knights. He ran the Ontario Hockey League. He didn't just dominate it. He ran the league. He was a commissioner. Yeah. And I say that with all due respect to David Branch. Patrick was amazing. The first guy to get as many points, close to it anyways, is Patrick Kane. In his draft year in the OHL is Michael Misa.
Yeah.
Michael Misa is the real deal. I mean, you talked about exceptional status. John Tavares was exceptional status. Aaron Ekblad was exceptional status. Connor McDavid was exceptional status. Sean Day was exceptional status. Shane Wright was exceptional status. And I can say this clearly, of all those players, Misa's as talented offensively as everybody on that list except for McDavid.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, how many people are as talented as McDavid? He is one of a kind. Let me just quickly get your thoughts on the Montreal Canadiens end in this. They get Noah Dobson, and they signed him to an 8-year deal, $9.5 million AAV. He's just 25 years of age. Give me your thoughts on it from Montreal's standpoint, because this is a team made the playoffs last year. They're continuing to develop, and they've got a bunch of good young defensemen already within their group.
2 of those young defensemen you're talking about, both playing the right side, and Logan Mailloux and also David Reinbacher. So they lose David Savard to retirement. They already acquired Alex Carrier from Nashville last year. Yeah. And so now they have a little bit of a void on the right side. They don't want to play Lane Hudson on the right, even though he can play there. I think they'd rather play him on the left. So now if you fit in, let's just say for the sake of argument, Noah Dobson plays on the right side, then you can take your time with either Reinbacher or Logan Mailloux because of the retirement of David Savard. And if you look at on the left side, let's just say you go Michael Matheson, let's just say you go Lane Hudson, and let's just say you go Jaden Struble or Arbor Jacki. Now you've got depth on the back end. You don't have to rush anybody. I think it's a great move for Montreal. It'll take some pressure off of Lane Hudson because of the power play. Last year, a lot of pressure on Lane at the end of the year. Dobson can run that power play. I think it's a great move for Montreal. They didn't need 16 and 17. Will they miss Heineman? Yeah, they will. But I think what that does, it opens up a spot for Owen Beck. It opens up a spot maybe for Luke Tuck. So there are other players internally that can move up with Heineman leaving. But I think Montreal's really worked well so far in this deal. Fantastic.
Yeah. And they got, the Kool-Aid kid or Goulet. That's another terrific player, right? And, the funny thing about Heineman, Pierre, is he's in the big trades. He only gets traded in big trades. He got traded for Bennett. He went to Calgary. He get traded, I think, for Toffoli. He ended up in Montreal, and now he gets traded for Dobson, and he goes to the New York Islanders. And you're right. He will be, I think, a helpful, middle six, third line type player for the Islanders, because I agree with you. I mean, he's a guy that can play in this league. Yep. Last thing from you, Pierre. I mean, you're well-sourced all over this league, many years. What do you think? Give me a prediction of something you think could happen tonight, a trade or maybe a swap of picks. What do you expect? Anything that you think could happen?
I think the Islanders are going to do something aggressively. You touched on it before to try to get down so that they can make the pick they want on James Higgins. I wouldn't be surprised too to see Columbus be really proactive on the trade floor. I think Donnie Waddell thinks they're pretty close to being a playoff team. They showed that this year. They've already moved out a goaltender to Florida, obviously, to try to make room for some other stuff. And so Columbus, I think, is going to be proactive. The Islanders are going to be proactive. I'm waiting for your New York Rangers to do something.
Well, listen, the Rangers, they moved on from their pick this year. And I think, let's touch on that really quickly about draft picks, right? Because let's face it, Gavin McKenna next year. And the Rangers are hoping to have a better season. They're hoping to be back in the playoffs. They're going to do things, right? But at the end of the day, if things don't go well and they miss the playoffs and they're in the lottery, you don't want to be sitting there not having your first round pick, because Gavin McKenna is going to be he's going to be another one of those generational type guys.
So I can say this with pure comfort. I watched Lindros, who was a generational player. I had the honor and privilege of coaching Mario Lemieux, generational player.
Yeah.
I was around Paul Coffey as a coach, and I can tell you, Christopher Pronger, generational player, helped draft him with Brian Burke in Hartford with the second overall pick in the 93 draft. I can go down the line.
Yeah.
Gavin McKenna reminds me of Crosby and Taves at the same age. He is so good. He's so ready for this. The stage will never be too big for him. You're so right on, EJ. It's a great point. The Rangers, if they didn't make the playoffs, I think there'd be a lot of fur flying. But you better make sure you have a first-round pick next year. Whomever you are in the National Hockey League, you better make sure you do.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll worry about that, Pierre, next year. For this year, we'll worry about what's going on at the draft here in LA starting this evening and rolling over into Saturday. But again, the big news, John Tavares signing a new contract with the Leafs, 4-year deal, $4.38 per season. So Tavares will be a Leaf for life. For the Toronto Sports Trust here on the Bet Rivers Network, EJ Hradek, the great Pierre McGuire. Have a great day.